So it's a new year, 2017. I've been sick most of the year to start off with, so I finally got out, did some fishing. It's still really cold, so I didn't get very good footage of this first fish of the year. But it was the first one, so I had to get it in the video. It's about a 17, 18-inch trout. And I worked around this cove in this lake, and I'm hooked up with a good fish here. Still fishing a small crankbait for trout. Hoping to maybe catch a few bass on it too, but the bass have been nowhere to be found this year so far. And the only thing I've been able to catch are these rainbows. These rainbow trout up in here. There's still ice on a lot of this lake. Out on the main part of the lake, it's still froze up. I think there was even some people ice fishing on part of it. On this day, but I'm up in here fishing this open water. Got a nice trout there, probably in the 22-inch range. Fishing up here on this side is really a shallow flat. It's got some gravel here on this bank. These fish will come up in the spring and try and spawn on this gravel bank. Not real sure they're able to do it, but they're trying. I'm hooked up with another good trout here. Not really doing anything different than the other videos where I fished this little square bill crankbait for trout. Except for this cove's pretty shallow for the most part. So I gotta work it pretty slow. Otherwise I'm hitting bottom, getting in the weeds. Kind of played around with running the crankbait under the rocks here. It seems to make the trout mad once in a while, but when you're bumping those rocks on the bottom, you don't get as good of hookups. So I'm trying to just swim it right along the bottom. Right over the weeds, where there's weeds. And every once in a while, one of these big trout will come up and slam this crankbait. Not really sure they're biting it out of hunger so much as they're just trying to run it out of the area. So for every one you catch, there's at least 3 or 4 that will just follow it into the bank. Just kind of chase it along out of the area where their nests are. And this is a real nice trout here. I think this one was pushing 24 inches. As it swims away. This water is really cold, obviously. A lot of the lake's still frozen. And this part of Nebraska. You're in the Platte River Basin, and a lot of the ground is real sandy. And there'll be water that flows into these lakes on the west end. And so the west end of these lakes and sand pits will open up first because you have that water flow coming in from the west, the groundwater. So when you're ice fishing, you really got to be careful fishing on the west end of these lakes and sand pits because the ice can be real thick on one side of the lake and really thin on the other. Or in this case, it's open water. Just kind of put three days worth of fishing in one video here. Catching these trout is pretty much the only game in town at this time of year right now. The ice is really not safe in most of the lakes and sand pits around the area. And there's really not enough open water in a lot of the lakes to do any real significant fishing. And these trout are cold water fish, so they're more apt to bite in this colder water than a bass would be. There were quite a few bluegills up along the banks, but I'm fishing for bass and trout mainly. But there were some people catching some bluegill and crappie at times. So I'm having some fun catching these nice sized trout out of this lake here. As you can see, they fight pretty good even in this cold water. And when you've been stuck inside all winter, this feels real good. Get out here, get out in the sun and catch some fish again. Especially when they're some pretty good sized fish. These trout are pretty nice sized. A lot of them between 20 and 24 inches. A few 17, 18 inches. Most of these trout in here are in the 2 to 5 pound range. They have stocked much bigger ones in the past, but I'm not sure they're going to do that anymore. But you never know. You can only catch what's in here. This fish hit right at the bank. I was just about to pull my lure out of the water, and this fish come up and just sucked it in. So there wasn't a real long fight here, but always nice to catch one. And when you hook them right close to the bank, then if you don't wear them out a little bit, then it's hard to unhook them, and they'll just go crazy on you. And when it's this cold out, you really don't want these fish splashing much water up on you. I got this fish 4 down. Get him unhooked here and get back in the lake. Another nice rainbow trout. Moved around over here on the north side of this cove and hooked up with a hard fighting trout here. It took me quite a while on this day to actually hook one, but finally ended up catching a couple. This one wasn't the biggest of the two, but man, it sure fought hard. Definitely try to give me another shower once I get it up here to the bank. Just goes crazy on me, splashing water everywhere. And then he takes off again. Goes on another little run here. Before I get him up on the bank, I like to leave these trout in the water if I can, but this one, just a little too much energy. Get him up on land, get these hooks out. Or he can't splash me like crazy. Not the biggest trout, but definitely energetic. Give me a good battle. And then we'll let her go. Actually, I think it's a male, so I think it's a he. But regardless, back into the water. This is what happens more times than not. You throw it out there and a trout falls it in and falls up to the bank and swirls and takes off the other way. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.